I'm here in Daytona Beach, Florida, to answer a call from a local mom-and-pop business. So far, this couple has beaten the odds by building a profitable restaurant business. But they have bigger dreams for the future, and they told us they need our help to get there. Let's go give these business owners a Your Business makeover. Hi, Camille. Hi, Omar.
Hey.
Hi.
Hi, Kitty. Good morning.
Hi. Who's this?
This is Zion.
Hi, Zion. Hi, Omar.
Hi, how are you?
2.5 years ago, the Browns opened this Caribbean vegan restaurant and smoothie shop called Kale Cafe, up here on the main drag in Daytona Beach. Then, less than a year later, they opened a second location in Ormond Beach. Now they want to lease a space to open a third location. But are they ready? You're ready for a third?
Ready for a third.
We're going to spend the day making sure you're ready.
Okay.
And at the end of the day, I want you two to feel comfortable, both of you.
Yes.
Before we got going, I went for a tour of their setup.
It's all vegan, 100%.
With no training or restaurant experience, they built the Kale Cafe through a painstaking process of learn as you go.
We're always trying to figure out what the best ergonomics are.
Oh, this is beautiful here. Oh, and this is much smaller. Do you feel like you learned a lot in the first restaurant that you brought into this one?
Absolutely.
They told me they hadn't planned on opening the second location so soon. But when the opportunity came up, they went with it.
We didn't have like a bag of money,
Right.
you know, but we used all of our income tax return and put everything into
Special help.
it.
Leaving the Ormond store, we moved on to see their house, where Camille manages the back office of Kale Cafe and homeschools her 5 children. You have a crazy, crazy job. So you're homeschooling your kids, you're working, this serves as your office, your school.
And now we're in my office.
I gotta admit, this seems nuts right here.
Yes, it's chaotic. This is how many hours this person had, the day they worked, and then I total them, and I type it into it.
Oh, then it gets typed into Intuit.
Yes.
Okay, you're keeping track.
Under there is a bin of stuff, and there's my receipt.
Oh, I didn't even see. Oh,
Yeah.
These,
My girlfriend.
Whoa, hold on.
Yeah.
I've got to pull this out. All right. These are your receipts? With 2 locations, 20 employees, 5 homeschooled children, and a chaotic list of undone chores, there is a lot to do. But they are keeping the business afloat, and they're pretty sure it's profitable. How profitable are you?
I can't tell you, JJ, because we grew so fast. We went from one store, and under a year, we signed a lease for the second store. So everything that we had to put it into the second store.
Omar and Camille have good instincts, and they're working unbelievably hard. But they're starting to see the limits of what can be done without information systems to guide them. So when you make decisions,
Right.
do you sit down with your financials and say, can we do this?
No, we don't.
I am the one that wants to do that. I cannot just make him sit still to do that.
Well, today, they both get to sit still and go over the numbers with small business financial expert Chris Myers of Bodie Tree.
This is just produce from the last couple months. You know, these are all my invoice folders.
Chris connected all that data and organized it into one big picture of what this means for Kale Cafe.
When you look at the revenue that's being generated by a juice bar and a vegan restaurant, and it's off the charts. You guys are doing really, really great.
Unfortunately, revenue alone is only half the story. The other half is expenses.
You guys made about, I think, $265,000 came into the business, which is phenomenal. You spent about $256,000 to get that. Right? So you're spending, basically everything to get to a 3% profit, which is about $8,000.
Well, that doesn't sound great. It's actually not all bad. When Chris looked closer, he found that much of that high cost came from paying retail prices at supermarkets instead of getting cheaper bulk rates from restaurant suppliers.
The good news is we can eliminate a lot of the Publix, we can eliminate a lot of that other stuff that we have in here.
Turns out, when Chris first pointed this out a few weeks ago, Camille jumped on it, setting up accounts with bulk suppliers, even before our film crew arrived.
It was like a truck from heaven.
In fact, during our interview, a delivery truck arrived with her second order.
And this is coming all the way from Pennsylvania.
Finally, Chris used the Bodhi Tree software to estimate what their business might be worth if they could bring their costs in line with similar businesses.
If you were to get those costs more in line with the industry, that is going to create about $500,000 of value for the business. I mean, that's a huge increase from where you are today in terms of that.
So now you know what you need to do. Now we've figured out how to do it. And I know you've been speaking to Dean Max from DJM Restaurants for quite a while now.
Yes.
I mean, Dean has already given you some great ideas, but let's catch up with him. He can check in to see how you're doing and take you on the next stage. 2 weeks before our cameras got here, Camille and Omar met up with Dean on their own to ask him questions. Camille told me one of Dean's questions got her thinking.
He asked us about the unit cost, and I'm like, we don't know the unit cost because the measurements aren't written down and the purveyors aren't consistent.
Dean suggested that they create a recipe book for each cook in each store to follow. This controls the unit costs and keeps the quality consistent between stores. And the impact of this on Camille was enormous.
I started crying, Dean, because I felt like this freedom, because I knew that the only way for us to really duplicate and be strong and effective was to have this recipe book that we hadn't been able to get together for 3 years old.
As they examined the inventory with Dean, Camille was showing off how much money she's started to save.
This is $80 for the same 50 pounds.
And then there's your profit right there. You guys are talking about, when you're talking about your bottom line.
The talk about bulk buying turned to inventory management. Dean says you need a system that ties recipes to sales to inventory.
It's going to tie in how much you need to have on hand, and how much you sold.
He's talking about his software system, which tracks all of the factors that Camille and Omar are struggling to follow.
Show me. How does that work? I get so excited about that stuff.
Okay.
Dean showed them the system he uses, called Analyze, which tracks their production day by day for each restaurant.
As we see our dashboard here, is you've got your sales, you've got your product costs, you've got your labor costs, and then your bottom line, which is your profits, right? I can look at all of my costs, whether it's labor or my product costs, and determine where I need to be more productive. Those are your two biggest costs that go out of control, right?
With a system that flags price changes like this, the owners can be proactive with the vendors.
The company might have just charged you double, by accident, and you're going to call them and say, "Hey, you guys, you guys charged me $5 more a pound. You're on your game now." Right. Before, you might not have caught that. And those are these little safety nets that you need to run this business at a different level.
Camille and Omar start to see how this will change the way they run their business.
That's what we've been doing, this guesstimating. But
right. This is not going to keep you from having problems. You're going to have waste. You're going to have theft. You're going to have loss. You're going to pay too much for something at some time. But what it's going to allow you to do is be very responsive very quickly.
Both Chris and Dean noticed that the veggie burger was one of their top sellers. But when Chris saw they were paying retail to buy them frozen, Dean offered to share his recipe for them to modify and make from scratch for a fraction of the cost.
I want you guys to make it your own. I want to make it Kale Cafe. So I want you guys to do that. We'll taste it. We'll come up with the best recipe for you guys. And this is going to take you to a better product cost and more profit. Okay?
Dean suggested a cook-off between Omar and Camille to choose the tastiest recipe to replace the store-bought ones they now use. Dean and I were the judges.
I feel like I'm on one of those TV chef competitions. Babe, I love you, dear, but the competition is on.
This word gets ugly, man. This word gets ugly.
Let's go! Yeah!
All right.
Game on.
Can I start? All right, you want to grab yours?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
Let me grab this one right here. Okay.
So good. Oh my God. That's good.
That is really good.
I see you smiling. I think it's yours, or maybe not. Okay, either say green or red. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Green. Oh,
We both went green.
That's Omar's. Was it yours? Was it yours? Oh. Great.
Finally, we introduced them to Dave Singleton,
Glad to meet you.
a small business mentor from SCORE, a nonprofit volunteer organization dedicated to helping small business owners grow their companies. With so many day-to-day demands, Camille told us it's hard to stay on top of the long-term goals, and that's where Dave comes in.
My job with you guys is really trying to help you keep focused after they leave, because they're gone now.
Yeah.
So now we have to be kind of together.
Checking in.
Being
accountable.
Yeah, be accountable.
Camille's already figured out how Dave can help her.
Right now, Dave, I think what's going to be critical for us is setting some concrete goals for when we want to have things done by. I'll make a master goal list of all the things that we want to accomplish before the next store opens.
We started the day with a question. Will Camille and Omar sign a lease to open the third store? Our two experts had their opinions.
Should they sign the lease today?
No, not today.
All right, what do you think?
You know, it's a tough one for me because I haven't seen their new spot. So if a location is, it's going to be so great, they might want to jump on it and just fly with it.
But in the end, the only opinions that count are Omar's and Camille's.
Now that you've looked into your numbers, you see what you have to do you feel ready to sign the lease, or do you feel like you want to put the brakes on?
No, I feel ready. I think we could do a lot of these things to save some more dough and increase our margins. So I'm ready to go forward.
And Camille, you always thought that.
Always.
How do you feel? Do you feel any better about it?
Looks.
I feel better.
You do?
I feel better.
You feel like you can do this all at once?
I feel like
I'm not.
I feel like we can do it.
Yeah.
Somehow, some way,
We always find a way.
with our children in tow, we will move forward.